welcome to Sensitive Artist Sunday. 1 week over and a new week just begun. Thank you for joining me. My name is SG Tosh, Sarah, to my friends, and to anyone here watching. Thank you for joining me today. May the 4th be with you all. And yes, in case you're wondering, I give equal representation and acknowledgement to both Star Wars Day and Easter. That's just the nature of this show. So if you understand that, welcome. You're in the right place. Um, I am moving a little bit slow this morning because last night, as it relates to May the 4th, I was at the Empire Strips Back burlesque parody show, which is what I was. If you saw the part where I was testing the audio, that's what I was rambling about before. Out at the Rio, and my husband got the tickets. I wasn't totally sure what to expect, but man, I had not had that much fun at a show in a very long time. It was my voice is a little hoarse. You might be able to tell now that you can hear me, um, just from yelling so much and hooting and hollering and laughing. And just to give you like sort of what you're in for in terms of the comedy of it. I can put it in one line. It's naked Emperor Palpatine, balls swinging, swinging on a disco ball Death Star to Miley Cyrus's Wrecking Ball. Like when I saw that, it broke my head. Like I was just laughing, and like we're done. We're never going to get to a better level of parody and subversion than that. So I'm fully retiring. I encourage all of you to do the same. Um, Except I don't, because that's the opposite of what today's show is about. Today's show started out as kind of a joke, just because I realized it was going to be May the 4th, and A New Hope uh, seemed kind of fun. For it ended up being episode 4 of this show, so I was sort of like, well, we'll call it A New Hope, and we'll talk about hope. And um, didn't really have any ideas in mind at the time of what that was going to look like. But now that I've had a chance to kind of look into it and think about it, it's turned into kind of an interesting topic. So I hope you enjoy it. If you haven't liked the channel yet, please do so. Like, subscribe, follow us. This is a growing community, a growing series, and any support we can get is great. So when we're talking about hope, especially when it comes to individual enterprise or creative enterprise, it can be a bit of a tricky thing. Hope sounds great. You want to have hope, um, but it can be tricky. And there's been a number of things written about hope in terms of, you know, television, movie, books, all of that. A lot of time spent on it. When I was posting this on social media, I used a quote from, Ted Lasso. It's a sports show, that it's the hope that kills you, talking about following a sports team that you want them to win. And speaking as someone from the great state of Minnesota, with arguably not as great sports teams, hope definitely does kill you. I think my friends over in Michigan would also agree. Go Lions! Um, I'm a Packer fan at heart, but like the Lions are, and my family is from Minnesota, so I'm a Packer fan. They're Vikings fans. The Lions have always been sort of Switzerland for us, so I like the Lions. I don't knock the Lions, um, but it is truly it can be extremely hard when your team or something is doing well, and you want to believe, and it hurts all the more when something knocks you down, um, and you spend all that time getting there, and it really is it can be quite devastating and upsetting. But then you also have quotes from the next one I always think of is The Shawshank Redemption, which is based on a Stephen King short story. Fun fact, for anyone who didn't know that. Um, it's a long short story. It's about 100 and some pages. It's from a collection of 4 short stories. Episode 4. Fours. Things are coming in fours, I guess. Um, and it's each story is kind of from a different it's 4 parts, 4 stories, and each story is assigned a season. And the one for Rita Hayworth in The Shawshank Redemption, which is the name of the story, is Hope Springs Eternal. Spring. Also, it's spring right now, so that makes sense. But that's a very, famous sort of axiom, that hope springs eternal, that hope, even when your team, just kills you at the end of one season by losing, you know, you brush yourself off and you gear up for next season, and you're still there cheering on your team. Typically, fans don't just disappear from season to season. They might get a little bit more jaded, a little bit more careful with their hope, which I think is natural. But it does spring eternal. And one of the quotes from the movie Shawshank Redemption is, and I've seen this movie probably way too many times, so I know it by heart, but hope is a good thing, probably the best of things, and no good thing ever dies. So very much encompassing that idea. But again, hope might keep springing back up only to be cut down again. So it can be a hard cycle to tread if you're constantly in that cycle. So what I want to talk about is what hope is, what that cycle is, and how you can avoid falling into it. Sports teams, I'm going to sort of abandon the sports team metaphor now, maybe call back to it a little, but I'm going to move on to hope in terms of your projects and what you want to succeed at. How do you move forward in hope? Because you need hope. If you don't have hope and you're just like, well, this is never going to work, then you're probably not even going to start, or you're going to start and stop and give up if you have absolutely no hope. So you do need a little bit of hope always. But how can you have, I guess, healthy, productive hope as opposed to false hope or hope that's going to cut you out at the knees and then make it harder for the future? So when I was preparing this, I actually did the dictionary defines hope thing. I do have notes here. Again, since my brain isn't totally connecting today, I wanted not to go off on tangents as much as possible. So the dictionary defines hope, and by dictionary, of course, I mean dictionary.com defines hope as, 1, a noun, the feeling that what is wanted can be had, or that events will turn out for the best. 1. Also a verb, to look forward with desire and reasonable confidence. And the last one, and maybe the one that really struck me, is hope as a verb, to believe, desire, or trust. And I think what struck me so much about that last one is believe, desire, trust. Those are 3 extremely big asks, all tied up in one word, right? Desire is, every hope starts as a desire, right? It's wanting something to work out or to come to you, and be anticipating and looking forward to that, and in a sense wishing for it. And I think particularly this series has always, or not always, this series has become a conversation about the intersection of art and commerce, or art and capitalism, creativity and capitalism, sort of as conceived and meant to be. But every week I find it even more and more tying together. And desire in a capitalist society, I think to some degree, is seen as a failure, because you shouldn't want things. You should just go get them. And if you don't have them, if you're desiring them and you don't have them, why don't you have them? What's wrong with you? Like, why didn't you go get them? You shouldn't be sitting here wanting things. And if you still want them and you can't get them, then you're a failure and you're worthless. And that can be anything, So I think to desire something without being able to just run out and grab it is something of a shameful thing. And I'm not saying it should be. I'm saying that's kind of what it is. And then also the backlash of, always wanting more is why can't you just be happy with what you have too? So you get it on both sides. Like, desire, not a good thing. And right there, your hope is kind of built on something that you don't want to talk about. So that can be tough. And then belief and trust, I mean, you know, both of those things, belief especially, I think relies on believing in something that is going to be partially, at least partially, in terms of sports, it's fully out of your control. And in terms of enterprise, any enterprise, creative or otherwise, you always go forward, I think, believing that you have a good foundation and a good sense of like what you're doing, um, and you move forward with the best possible chance of success. Hopefully, you've given yourself the best possible chance of success, but you never really know. It's always up to the market, the audience, world events, global events, big, shifts in ideology, shifts in, everything, sentiment. You never know what's going to happen, you know. Sometimes those things can be good, sometimes they're not. But there is always, when you're talking about striking out on your own and doing something new, offering something new into the world, there's always a level of risk, and you do need belief and trust to counteract that. And I think belief is one thing, like I said, trust, they are connected, but trust, I think, comes down to, I think as a society, we've become more and more both suspicious of other people and their sort of intentions and what we can count on them to reasonably do and support. And also, I think we've learned not to trust ourselves as much. We've been kind of, there's a lot of, what am I trying to say? A lot of my brain has just completely gone away. But basically, it's hard to trust yourself. And I think that's mostly because as you get older, the note is kind of fall in line. A lot of the sort of enterprises or experiments or projects are like something you try when you're young, and then you grow out of it, and you kind of go straight, settle down, get married, have kids, get a job. That's it. And to trust yourself to not follow that path is difficult because a lot of, you're being told to kind of go one direction. So that can be hard. And this all is to say that, as I said at the beginning, hope is a double-edged sword. You need it, but it's also built on things that are extremely difficult to maintain and difficult to attain, especially when the world is kind of set up to break down all three of those things and destroy your hope. And then not even destroy your hope, but to kind of stop you from even establishing it in the first place, or to establish it with like, yeah, things might work out. Or a great one is like every time the Vikings do well or are starting to do well, and I talk to my sister about it, she's like, yeah, they'll screw it up though. Same thing with my friend Michael, who rooted for the Lions. Just like, yeah, they're gonna blow it right at the end. They always do. So your hope is not really taking root in that situation when you're just convinced that it's not going to work out. Again, I'm going back to the sports metaphor, but it's easier that way. And if you transfer that over to like, oh yeah, I'm writing this book or I'm doing this play, but like it's probably going to fail, and it's never going to work, and no one's ever going to read it. It's not a great way to set out on a journey believing that it is going to be a failure. So you need that hope, but you need it strong, and you need to have it built in a way that you can believe and trust the desire that it's built on. So that's kind of what I want to talk about next is, what can you do? What can you do to establish a healthy hope that, understanding that there's always going to be uncertainties in whatever you're doing. How can you kind of put yourself in a position where even if it doesn't work out, you're not going to be so devastated and heartbroken at the end that it kills you. First of all, I think the first thing, as I've said, hope starts with a desire. You got to make sure that desire is reasonable and attainable. I would say, just going back to me as an author, if you're a first-time author, it's probably not reasonable to assume or to desire a #1 Amazon release day. Like, that would be great, but it's not reasonable to assume that that's going to happen or to expect that that's going to happen. So I wouldn't hope for that. I wouldn't put my hopes on that desire. I would say, depending on your release strategy, you hope for 25 reviews on day one is better. And that leads into the next thing, which is trust. As I have been saying and saying and saying, when it comes to this kind of thing, there are always going to be X factors that you are not going to be able to control. So work on the stuff you can control. Educate yourself. Trust yourself. Develop a release plan. Develop a writing plan. Develop a production plan that you can control, that you can stick to, and that you know is going to work. Same thing with marketing. Same thing with ads. Like, do the research. Talk to people. You can talk to me. You can talk to other writing community members. If you don't know where to find them, I mean, social media is a good place to start. If you have local writing groups, that's another good place to start. Sin City Writers Group, by the way, we meet every Tuesday and Saturday here in Vegas in person. And if you have a writers conference nearby, one of the best things I did first was I went to the Loft Literary Center in Minneapolis. I was fortunate. I didn't really click with the critique groups and the other authors in Minneapolis, just didn't happen to at the time. Nothing against them, but the Loft Literary Center is a fantastic resource. Groups like that are absolutely essential. I took a number of their writing classes. I went to a couple of their events. I did some pitching there. Wonderful. I highly recommend it to anyone in Minnesota or anyone going to visit Minnesota. Education, getting a plan together, and figuring out what will work in terms of what you can control reasonably. Remember that an expectation of success with reasonable confidence, not overconfidence, not blind confidence, not false confidence, like reasonable confidence. And that reasonable part comes from education, learning to write a good book, learning to market it, learning what, sort of technical, tricks there are, the tech bots, the tech spiders that are crawling around out there, what they like. It is a little bit of playing a game, and it is a little, and maybe I'll do a whole video on that later. But it is a way that you can trust that your hope is not going to be completely shattered. Putting a book, I can tell you this from experience, putting a book out there and hoping that it hits anywhere significant on the Amazon lists is absolutely a disaster for killing hope. That's not going to work. Any amount of pre-marketing you can do is likely going to help you. So that is very important. And then finally, I think the belief in this situation is what you're doing, and this is a question that I would ask anybody pursuing anything, is what you're doing worthy of the time it's going to take to do it, regardless of whether or not it works out the way you want, regardless of whether or not your hope is met, regardless of whether or not it's exceeded. If you believe in what you're doing enough, you believe it's worthy, and you believe that there is going to be a place for it, again, that does come down to research, market research, and you believe that there's, a demand, a desire for it out there, Maybe people are hoping for you to bring something to them. You know, people are hoping for a book like yours, or a game like yours, or a piece of art like yours, or play like yours. If you believe that that desire is out there, and you believe that what you're doing is worth the work, even if it's only consumed by 5 people or whatever, if it's worthy of production, it's very hard to have your motivation and your hope destroyed if you believe that it's worth it no matter what. So that's what I would say, is make sure your desire is that you're building your hope on is reasonable, that you're going to pursue it with reasonable confidence of success. And this goes to goal setting, which again could be a whole other video. Trust that your skills, your education, that you've educated yourself, and you've trained yourself enough to put out the best product, that your desire will be met, and believe in that product. Believe in the mission behind it, and believe that people are going to be out there to accept it. So desire, trust, believe is the foundation of good hope, and not hope that will end up killing you in the end. And as far as sports teams are concerned, I mean, this is why people have superstitions. Like, it is completely out of your realm of control to succeed. So, like, I guess keep doing those superstitions, but understand that, like, it's fully unreasonable confidence that you go forward with, because everybody loses eventually and everybody wins eventually. Actually, that's not true. Not everybody wins eventually, but everybody does lose eventually. Only one team can be the best every year. So it's a lot of disappointment, and you're not alone. That's the other thing, is when you get disappointed, you're always in good company, because not everyone can win, but everyone can lose. So keep that in mind. Yes, thank you for attending this talk. I don't think we actually did our opening breath, so I guess I'll do a closing breath right before I sign off. Next week, I will be in Mesa, Arizona for Enemies and Lovers Fantasy Book Convention. So if you're in town, please stop by, say hi, grab some swag, maybe buy a book, maybe buy a sparkly dragon, little keychains I have, things like that, or just say hi. I'm happy to talk to people. I'm on a panel on, I believe, Saturday around noonish, so you can find me there too. Otherwise, this is all to say that I will not be here next Sunday. So I will be taking next week off, and I will return on the 18th, I think it is. Don't have a topic yet, but I will probably, now that next time will be halfway through, I will probably try to fill out the rest of the topics for the 10 episodes of this season that we're doing. So with that, I will say happy Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. If you are observing May the 4th, Star Wars Day, enjoy your viewing, probably for the thousandth time or whatever. But have fun with that. May the force be with you, and I will see you next week. Bye, guys.